Philip and Clint, y'all are the champions of the third stop ABT North on Wheeler. Awesome job, big paycheck. And so y'all just won the tournament. Let's talk about a little bait action. I heard swim baits was one of the things you were catching your fish on, so let's talk about that a little bit.
Yeah. First fish we caught was on a square bill in a ditch. After that, I think Clint got on a tear with a spinner bait.
I swapped spinner baits about 3 times, trailers about 3 or 4 times, and finally got it figured out what they wanted. They were picky.
So you were changing the bait because of the fish. It was not because you were going through them, it's because you weren't getting bit or they were missing it.
Just we're hitting grass. We knew they had to be there because where the bait was following everything back, but the bass just wouldn't eat. So we just kept cycling through. Finally got a recipe of a spinner bait they wanted.
So this was a shad spawn.
Yes, absolutely.
Very interesting point. So a lot of people talk about in the shad spawn, the bait fish are following their baits back,
right,
but there's no bass there. So y'all were seeing the same thing, but instead of just saying there's no bass here, you just kept changing your bait until they bit it.
Yeah.
That's a very cool perspective. I actually talked to a lot of people today that said, "Man, there's bait every time coming back, and there's no bass here." So it's it's cool to hear that.
So we actually had another ABT angler, Ryan Adcock, I think his name was, and him and his partner were fishing nearby. Really cool. We didn't encroach on them or anything. They were up there shelling them. So it gave us confidence. The fish were there. They were feeding. We just had to figure out what exactly they would eat.
Gotcha. Really cool. So square bill turned to a spinnerbait, going through a bunch of them to figure that shad spawn bite out. Where did the swim bait play? You said you got somebody, a friend or somebody that makes a swim bait.
Yeah, Joe Thompson with Big G swim baits, sells them down at Waterfront. I work with him, and he's brought me samples for 2 or 3 years. I'm not a huge swim bait guy, but once we probably had around 20, 21 pounds, and we're like, we went to some other spots, but we're like, where are we going to upgrade?
Sure.
We know where the big fish are, so we ran downriver a little bit and fished for maybe an hour. We'll call it letting the fish rest, and we went back up there.
For it.
Yeah, the shad spawn was way over, but we figured, the big fish were up in that area. Made a slight adjustment. We pushed out from where everybody was fishing to a shill bed that he found 2 years ago, and we just threw big swim baits, and he probably caught our biggest fish.
Wow.
I actually sat it on the deck, and it sat right there on the boat. And I said that we need to throw that tomorrow, so I finally tied it on later in the day when we needed the big one, and it did it.
Wow. That's an awesome story. I like my favorite part of this one was just the fact that you didn't give up and just say there's no bass here. Well, and y'all saw some other guys catching fish, so that kind of give you a little more momentum, but so many people just give up and say it was just bait, there was no bass in that shad spawn, so I think that's a really cool story. But square bills, spinner baits, swim baits, all of those things obviously came into play when there's a shad spawn, especially on Wheeler. Gizzard shad colors, threadfin colors, all of those things are going to work. Academy's got everything you need. The square bill, the spinner baits, the swim baits, whatever you need is found at Academy. This is your Academy Sports Winter's Tackle Box.